You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Mangala Holland. Just search for me there. And you can also find me on my website, mangalaholland.com.
Perfect, perfect. So one of the first questions I want to ask you, I've seen you post about it, and it looks like it's an incredible event that's coming up. But the pleasure and prosperity, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So that is a free class, 75-minute class. And we actually ran that the other day, but you can still grab the replay. So that's still available on my website. And I can send you the link straight after this if you want to share that. And so this is basically for anybody who is curious to know if they've got what it takes to teach female pleasure and to do what I do, because honestly believe I have the best job in the world. It is the most fulfilling, rewarding work that you can do, really supporting other people to become themselves and to let go of the sexual blocks and to become more confident. So the class is really giving people information about what it takes to become a facilitator, what it takes to do it safely, how you can also, it's for women and vulva owners, how you can also go deeper in your own pleasure and your own orgasms, and also what it takes to run this as a successful business. Because there's a lot of people try to step into this work and it is a very booming industry, but with that comes some challenges. So I'm really passionate about making sure people thrive by facilitating this work. So yeah, and I also talk about my facilitator training program in that workshop as well. So it's free, you can grab it and watch the replay. Yeah.
I can't wait to look at it. I'm glad that you share that, and please include the link because from the outside looking in, I read it, I reviewed it, I see some of the feedback that you got and things like that, and as a man observing it, it interests me, even though it isn't catered to
Mhm.
me. So I know that sometimes men can be a little bit overbearing in this space, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, she has this going on. There's probably some good looking women. They're talking about orgasms. Sign me up, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. But it's not necessarily for them. So, how do you filter out the men who have good intentions from the men who maybe don't have not so good intentions?
Yeah. So this is where often that happens in a private conversation behind the scenes. And I am going to build out some programs to support men who want to support the women in their lives, because that's really important as well. Because yes, with this particular offer, it's talking about my training program, which is only for women to join, because I having the way I entered this world was in an environment that was very unsafe, and I saw a lot of women getting abused and sexually assaulted in the name of sexual liberation and healing and all of this stuff. So I think it's really important that women have a safe space to explore this away from their partners and away from prying eyes, where they can just be in a group of other women and share their own stories, and that gives space for much more vulnerability. And at the same time, there is a need to really cheer on the men who we want walking side by side with us, and we want to celebrate men who have good intentions and want their partners to experience more pleasure. And I will say, it's not public knowledge yet, so you were the first to hear about this, but I have got a book coming out. I know as we record this, it's the 14th of January, and it comes out a month today, so it comes out Valentine's Day. Um, and that's all about female pleasure and orgasms. And I think it'd be wonderful if men read that book and gifted it to their partners and went on the journey as well. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I will be out of town that week, but please send me an email in regards to it and I will support that book because I think it's
Wonderful.
very important.
Thank you.
And when you were speaking, you reminded me of a friend who, the way he would talk about sex, it was very, trying not to get canceled by my male audience here. It's very like egotistical, right? It was very like, yeah, Terrain, I do this position and,
Right.
I'm hitting it hard. I'm hitting it hard. Right. And what I would ask him, I was like, so your nickname's like the jackhammer. You're just pounding away. You don't really care. You're destroying the ground around you. The neighbors are calling for noise pollution, all this nonsense, right? And when for me, after I spoke to you, I spoke to a few other people in the industry. And what I learned is that sex is not about ego. I learned that there's things that I need to understand, listen, and convey. And my partner has to do the same thing. As a man who maybe for a while took pleasure in maybe saying that I had Mango last night and she was screaming and she was making all these sounds, I'm the man. I'm walking around the house with my chest out, still naked because you're my conquest, right? But it's a lot more than that because you can enjoy or you can feel that you've done the best thing possible, but your partner didn't enjoy it.
Totally.
Right. And I think a lot of times women will endure, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
because they don't want to be seen as, oh, you know what? He's going to say that I was just laying there. I'm just lazy. I'm not good in bed. Are these some of the mindsets that you deal with when it comes to the women who you speak with?
Absolutely. I love what you say about sex not being about ego. And that is, and I think that works both sides. But like there's a whole thing. A lot of the women I work with will tell me that, they're having sex with their husband or their partner because they're scared that they're going to leave them otherwise. And they're just going through the motions in order to keep them happy. And they're not really enjoying what's happening. They're just putting up with it. It doesn't really satisfy them. And there's so much resentment built underneath. And it's because they're not communicating. And communication is so, so, so key. And it's like if we can educate people to have those really, the challenging conversations about, hey, this we've been doing the same thing for a long time. Can we mix it up? Can we try something different? Can we get creative? And a bit more honesty as well. I think it would serve everybody. And as you say about the jackhammer, I mean, I think there is a lot of men, unfortunately, have been socially conditioned that that's how they're supposed to be, and that it's a very performative thing. And and what this is a massive generalization, but what most partners want is just presence and to know that the partner is really connected with them and paying attention, and that they are responsive and sensitive to what's happening in the moment, rather than stamina, rather than getting the moves right, rather than being in the right position or any of that stuff or performing. It's about really just being in the honesty and the presence of what's really happening in the moment and responding to it. That is what, in my experience, that's what makes a good lover. Yeah.
I think sometimes, to your point, it'll be kind of scary because what if you were to tell someone that I don't like this, and
Yeah.
then you see a decrease in the amount of sex that you have,
Yeah.
then you have a decision.
Yeah.
Do I continue this position even though it doesn't fulfill me in the way that I want to, or I don't do it and therefore my partner strays away and potentially they may do that with someone else, right?
Absolutely. And not just that, but there is also, if you're with someone that perhaps is a new partner or someone you've hooked up with, sometimes there is a feeling like you've got to go through with it because that person might get violent. The safety thing is a real thing. So I do want to highlight that as well. But this is something I work with my clients on about, how can we give feedback that is empowering and encouraging and uplifting and not emasculating men. If we're talking about heterosexual relationships, we don't want to make our partners feel rejected or deflated, because that's just going to destroy the dynamic completely. So what works really well is to tell people what they're doing that works really well. So something, if you're enjoying something, let your partner know, communicate it, make it really obvious. And this is where sound, movement, breath, all of these things, it's like, yes, this is awesome. Stay right here. Don't change a thing. Those kind of things. Or if it's afterwards, in a bit of a, if you're having a chat afterwards. It's like, I really loved it when you did this. And like really giving them guidance as to what is working works much better than I don't like this, this doesn't work. I don't like it when you do this, so that can be really, really helpful. Yeah.
To this day, I find the conversation a little awkward, not
Mhm.
necessarily from me, from the other person, because I may say something along the lines, I really like how you did this. And you can tell in their facial expression, they've never received a compliment
Yeah.
in the bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And then you have another situation where you say, okay, can you do more of this? And they're kind of hesitant because maybe there's like a trigger where someone said, hey, you're not good at oral sex. You're not
Mhm.
good at this. You're not as creative. So, how would we walk the fine line between giving feedback that is constructive but very positive, very like, yeah, you're the champ, you're the
Mhm.
best at this, or whatever words you want to use, versus it coming across as you're not good enough, do more,
Mm.
learn
Mm.
more, be better.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this can really touch on people's insecurities, whether it's, as you say, whether it's from a partner saying something previously that's not their confidence, or whether it's just like, oh, nobody's ever given me feedback on this. I don't know if I don't feel that confident in doing this to my partner, and I have no idea if it's good enough. And what if it's not? What if I'm not as good as his previous girlfriend, and all of this kind of stuff. And so I think this is where like really slowing down communication in the moment can be really good. It's like and making that a real two-way conversation. How does that feel? Would you like more pressure? Is there anything I can do to like that will make you enjoy this even more right now? Um, these kind of things can be really helpful. And sometimes this can happen. This can be really good when you slow the experience down because I think everybody's in such a rush to be like getting it right to everything being perfect, or that there's a race to orgasm, and we're leading busy lives. So it's like, well, we've got to squeeze this in, and then we've got something else at 7 o'clock or whatever it is, and it's like, what if we can just slow this down and really just be in the moment with it rather than feeling like it's got to lead somewhere, and also bringing in a sense of humor when things get clunky and things get awkward, or it goes a bit wrong. It's just to bring more sense of humor into that so that you can laugh about it together and it doesn't become such a life or death situation. I think is really helpful.
Yeah, I love that part where you said that if there's like an awkward moment or an awkward silence or even like an awkward gaze where you don't
Yeah.
know if the person's enjoying this, make a joke about, say, you know what, I'm gonna throw you in the air and I'm gonna somersault on you like in the Top Gun movie, right? Something along those lines, right? Just make it silly because the bedroom is such a sensitive
Yeah.
topic for a lot of people. And we're just trying to make sure that this is a moment in time where two people who have feelings about each other, there may be an attraction and maybe
Mm,
love and maybe whatever,
mm,
they just want to express it in an intimate setting. And it starts with the touching, it
yeah.
starts with the understanding. And then you may get into the penetration aspect of it. But it doesn't have to be, as you pointed out, performative, where you're like, okay, 50 pumps, no more. Right? If you orgasm, you orgasm. If you don't, you don't. But
Yeah.
you know what? I have to go to this business meeting in an
Yeah.
hour, whatever the case is,
Yeah.
versus let's make the time, as you said,
Mhm.
slow it down. I want to understand your body. And that's what I had to learn as I started to pay more attention to the woman's body. I started to enjoy different positions that maybe I didn't enjoy
Yeah.
previously. So can you speak to the different aspects of the buildup to sex before you get to penetration?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you raised this because I'm a real big believer that sex is not just penetration. It's the whole, lovemaking, sex, intercourse, however you want to describe it. It's the whole experience. And there's very wise people say that foreplay begins the moment your last lovemaking finishes. So it's like, there is build up before you even see each other, like texting throughout the week, can't wait to see you, and just building. building it up in all kinds of ways that might not be really overtly even sexual, but just letting your partner know that, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm setting the scene, and you're building yourself up to it as well. And so there is so much, just like in communication, in coming together, in even just in, you know, looking into each other's eyes, or the first kisses and the first touch of each other's bodies before you start undressing each other or anything like that. Just like those moments where it goes from being perhaps a little bit innocent and playful to things steaming up. I think that is a lovely space to play in, and it's like